DW AfricaLink.
Leaving home in search of opportunity is a choice. Being forced to return with nothing, no savings, no belongings, no plan, is not. And that is a reality thousands of Malawians are facing today after fleeing rising insecurity and anti-foreigner sentiments in South Africa. But behind the numbers are people who once hoped for a better future, but may now have to start from zero again. Today we are looking at the stories of many Malawians who have had to leave South Africa and return home. What preparations are in place for their return, and what is next after their return? Stay with us for more. This is AfricaLink, the podcast that connects you to the stories that matter across Africa. I am Ajua Tinkrama Domina, your host for today.
AfricaLink, every weekday here on DW.
Thousands of Malawians have returned from South Africa amid anti-foreigner sentiments. Many returned empty-handed, with no future or backup plans. They have returned to an already struggling Malawian economy, and an all too familiar question is being asked once again: what next? Is there enough support for the returnees when they get back home? Is the Malawian economy fit to accommodate all its returned citizens? And what happens if reintegration fails, not just for the returnees, but for Malawi as a whole? To help us answer these and more, we have been joined by Michael Kayata. He's a human rights activist and a chairperson for the Human Rights Defenders Coalition. I also have DW's Chimwemwe Padatha joining us from Lilongwe. Welcome you both. Let's start with you, Chimwemwe. What do we know so far concerning the Malawians returning from South Africa?
All right. Thank you so much. I would start by giving the current figures that we are now over 40,000 Malawians who have returned from South Africa. And I would say the situation concerning Malawians who are fleeing xenophobic attacks in South Africa is still dire at the moment. I'm saying so because over the past week, the Malawi government admitted that the exact number of Malawians in South Africa is not known, as the numbers of people seeking support is still rising each day. And a lot of people are still spending nights at the offices of Malawi's High Commission in South Africa, but also not forgetting the food and other basic amenities needed by these individuals. The situation is really getting out of control. We also saw a grouping of some aid providers in South Africa petitioning the Malawi High Commission over accusations that the Commission has abandoned Malawians in South Africa and failing to provide the basic necessities. So I would say really the Malawi government has been overwhelmed by the current situation on the ground, something that was not expected looking at the previous projections of Malawians stranded in South Africa.
Michael, let me come to you. Is it the same situation you witnessed, and at least from where you sit as a human rights activist?
Yeah, thank you very much. So the situation is really bad. As a human rights activist, I've had the opportunity to interact with some of the returnees, and the stories that they are narrating are really heartrending. Many are describing living South Africa under very difficult and traumatic circumstances. Some will report that of lost businesses, employment, homes, personal belongings that they had accumulated over many years. Many of them are saying that they had to return voluntarily out of fear after witnessing attacks on fellow migrants or receiving warnings from neighbors, friends, or even relatives. There's a common feeling, I would say, that there's a common feeling of uncertainty and anxiety about the future, particularly among those who had spent years or even decades building livelihoods in South Africa. Many returnees, as I said, feel abandoned by both the government and believe more could have been done to protect migrant communities. and prevent organic, xenophobic violence. Yes.
But from where you sit, Michael, do you see that the efforts by the government has fallen short in any regard?
I would say yes. The efforts have fallen short. Yes, we commend the government for responding to this crisis. However, I think the government is overwhelmed. They didn't expect that they would have so many Malawians requesting support with the repatriation.
Doesn't the government know the figures of Malawians in South Africa, for which reason it will put in place the necessary measures to meet the people that are coming? So why are we talking about the government being overwhelmed with the numbers?
Yeah, it looks like government was not aware exactly how many Malawians were living in South Africa. Remember that most of these were living there illegally, meaning that they were not documented. But it also seems we have challenges at the High Commission in South Africa. It looks like the Commission doesn't have, they don't keep data of Malawians that are living there, especially because of the challenge of undocumented migrants. So that created a challenge in a way, because the government was not expecting, the high numbers that later reported and requested the support from the government. So I think it's a challenge of record keeping, and also the fact that many Malawians travel South Africa illegally, which means that when they are there, they are almost unrecognizable. They don't even turn up for documentation with the High Commission, which poses a challenge in situations like this.
Interesting. Thank you so much, Michael. Chimamwe, do we have an idea of a breakdown of the people who have returned so far?
Just to be clear that this number, 27,000 people from the 40,000 people who have returned are men, while the rest are female, including over close to 3,000 children under the age of 5 among this group of 40,000 Malawians. So you'll see that the increased number of men who are seeking employment in other countries such as South Africa is very high, because this also puts to question the current situation of unemployment in Malawi. These individuals go to other countries to seek for employment. Only what we are being told is that a majority of these Malawians were illegally staying in South Africa. That's what is also coming out from the South African officials, that many of these Malawians do not have papers, do not have documentation to work in South Africa or to stay in South Africa. So we have also seen that in the past weeks, the South African government has been sending back home Malawians who were arrested and being held in prisons. So I would say that this group includes those who were sent by the South African government, and also another group by the Malawian government through the voluntary repatriation exercise. Just to be clear, a majority of these individuals are undocumented.
Now, in terms of the arrangements the Malawian government put in place to receive them, in terms of reintegrating them back to society, livelihood support, what can you tell us?
Yes, that's true. The Malawi government has put in place several measures to receive citizens returning from South Africa after fleeing the xenophobic attacks. So to say that the response is coordinated by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs together with the Department of Disaster Management Affairs, the Immigration Department, health authorities, and humanitarian partners. The government has also put up a temporary reception center at a stadium in the southern part of Malawi, where the returnees are being registered. They are being tested for any health complications. Right there, they are given food, others receiving clothing and other essential supplies. So these returnees are undergoing medical screening. They're also receiving first aid and psychosocial counseling, also being provided to them, just as a way of helping the returnees recover from the trauma of displacement. So after going through this process, the government is facilitating the provision of transport from the reception points to the people's respective districts. But authorities have admitted logistical challenges due to the large number of the returnees coming from South Africa.
Michael, let me come back to you now. We've spoken about the fact that the governments at the moment seem to be overwhelmed with the numbers. But for the returnees themselves, what are some of the biggest challenges you think they will be confronted with now that they have come back to Malawi?
Yeah, the challenges are quite huge that the returnees will face upon arrival in Malawi. The first challenge is economic reintegration. In Malawi right now, there are limited employment opportunities. If you look at the rate of unemployment is quite high. The economy is not creating jobs, which has resulted in high levels of unemployment, particularly among young people. The other challenge is also limited access to capital for starting businesses. You appreciate the fact that some of the Chinese were doing business in South Africa. Now, due to the violence, they have been forced, to leave behind their businesses and come home. Now, when you talk to some of them, they'll tell you that they'd want to restart their businesses, but the challenge is finance. They don't have capital. They don't have access to capital. So it's really a big challenge. They also face the challenges related to social reintegration, especially for those that have spent many years abroad. It will be difficult. Already there are challenges, reintegrating in their societies. There are people that have reported not being accepted in their communities, or maybe being treated with the contempt or even discrimination. So social reintegration is going to be really a big challenge. There are also some returnees that are saying that they were supporting their relatives back home. So now that they have returned, they are facing pressures from their extended families who expected, immediate financial support, from them. There will also be housing challenges. Many of them do not have homes. They don't have assets, productive assets, to return to. So it's really a very big challenge, especially, ensuring that they are able to reintegrate safely and successfully with their communities.
I hear a lot of uncertainty, from what you're saying, at least as far as the future of these people are concerned. And it does not appear that Malawi prepared to receive them or to absorb them. Now, what can they do, number one, on the part of the government to make life a bit easier for these people who have left their lives and their livelihood somewhere else? And what can the returnees do for themselves as well, so that they do not face the risk of trying to go back, even if not for South Africa, trying to maneuver their way into other, countries where they can find, employment or support their livelihoods?
Yeah, so the situation is that currently the government is already facing economic pressures. The economy is not in good shape. Malawi is already struggling with a lot of challenges in the economic sector, such as inflation, high inflation, rising cost of living. There's also the challenge of forex availability, and so many other challenges. So it's happening at a time when the government is already struggling to address these challenges. And now looking at this problem that has arisen, it will really be a tall order for the government to integrate these returnees and ensure that they are able to have livelihood support and things like that. And that's why government will need a lot of support from development partners, humanitarian agencies, and even the private sector to provide maybe business startup grants for returnees that want to start their business, provide access to microfinance, and even agricultural support packages for those that would want to venture into farming. There could also, there will also be need maybe to have job placement programs for Malawians with the various skills. But as I said, our economy has not been creating jobs. Yes, until recently, government had imposed a temporary ban on the recruitment in the public sector. Of course, that ban has been partly lifted, but it's still going to be a challenge, for government to create new opportunities for these returning Malawians, and that's why I think development partners need to come in, to provide support, especially for those that want to venture into small-scale businesses to survive.
So, Chimamwe, tell us what economic impact the influx of these returnees have caused on the Malawian economy.
Yes, the influx really puts a strain on social services here in Malawi, knowing that we are already struggling with social services, including health, not forgetting the lack of jobs here in Malawi. So presently, the government is also spending billions of kwacha to repatriate the Malawians, resources that could also be used to improve the social facilities here in Malawi, to improve health services or to create jobs. So indeed, this repatriation exercise and the influx of Malawians back to Malawi has put a toll on the country's economy.
What are the emotions surrounding the sudden return? Is it joy? Is it uncertainty, especially for those who may have been relying on their relatives in South Africa for financial support and all of that? How are these families coping with the return?
The return of these Malawians has been received with mixed feelings among relatives as well as the communities where these individuals used to live before they traveled to South Africa. I'll start with the relatives. Many families have welcomed the relatives back in their lives, but full of emotions because when a family member or a family here goes outside the country, we expect that that particular relative will bring some items, gifts, or anything just to show some kind of love. But looking at circumstances of how these individuals left South Africa, many left behind their items. They couldn't take anything for their loved ones. So I also managed to talk to a kid of one of the returnee here in Malawi, a father who has stayed in South Africa for 5 years, and looking at this young boy whose father stayed in South Africa, asking him what the father brought. He was very emotional, hearing that the father didn't bring anything for him, even his family, claiming that he left behind all his stuff in South Africa. So this has also brought some skepticism among family members, with some questioning whether these individuals were really working in South Africa or the kind of conditions where they were living in South Africa. So it's full of mixed emotions here in Malawi.
Thank you, Chimamwe. Michael, you've mentioned a lot of things the government and other partners could do to support these returnees. If all of these do not come, what can these returnees do, and how is it going to affect the humanitarian situation in Malawi?
It's government needs to provide support. I can't see anyone else coming apart from the government to provide that support. Yes, we have development partners, but government should take the ultimate responsibility to ensure that these people, these Malawians, safely and successfully reintegrated in society, but also provided the support in order to rebuild their lives. If government does not do that, then it will be really quite unfortunate. It will be like government has failed to fulfill one of its responsibilities to the citizenry. The consequences could be quite bad for the country. It could be bad for the communities where these people are living in. If government does not provide the much needed support, there's a risk that you could see a rise in crime in the country, which could be bad for Malawi. We could also see conflicts, in communities, especially due to competition for already scarce resources. I said earlier on that Malawi is in a very bad economic situation right now. People are already struggling to access food. They are struggling to access various resources. There are limited opportunities for employment, business, and things like that. So it's really a very bad situation. And if government does not intervene to provide support to these people, there's a risk that we could see conflicts resulting from competition for already scarce resources. There's also a risk that some vulnerable Malawians who have returned could find themselves forced into the hands of human traffickers, which could also, be another problem. Already, Malawi has been grappling with the problem of human trafficking, where vulnerable people, especially women and girls, are trafficked, to other countries where they're exploited. And if the government does not come in to provide the much needed support to these returnees, that risk is there that you could see a rise in cases of trafficking, especially targeting women and girls. So really, government does not have many options. Unfortunately, yes, we have developing partners that provide support, but we also know that developing partners are also facing their own challenges.
What can Malawi learn from all of this?
Yeah, I think Malawi can learn a number of lessons from this recent situation. The first thing is to address the root causes of migration. You appreciate the fact that many people who leave the country are forced to do so by circumstances. They are forced to do so by poverty. Many are forced to leave the country for South Africa, especially because our economy is not creating jobs. There's a lot of unemployment across the country, particularly among the youth. So government should learn a lesson and ensure that it invests a lot, in promoting economic growth, industrialization, skills development, and job creation. The other lesson that we needed to learn is to diversify migration destinations. Many people have traveled and traveled to South Africa, but there are many other countries where they can migrate to, not just South Africa. Government, recently was implementing a work abroad program, in Israel. I think government needs to resuscitate, if that is the right language, that program, so that more could be channeled towards the countries like Israel. Of course, we also know that Israel is experiencing its own conflicts, internal conflicts. But we needed to diversify migration destinations. We also need the government to create more opportunities, even at home. People should not have to migrate because of lack of opportunities in Malawi. Job creation should be a top priority for the government. It's unfortunate that job creation is always rhetorical rather than implemented in practice. I think the time has come for the government to really get serious in terms of creating job protection. Job creation, especially for young people. There's also need for government to have protocols for responding quickly to mass returns, so that we do not see haphazard efforts when things happen.
Thank you so much, Michael Kayata. He is a human rights activist, also the chairperson for the Human Rights Defenders Coalition. Earlier, you also heard DW's Chimwemwe Padatha joining us from Lilongwe. Thank you so much for your time, both of you. As Malawi continues to receive more returnees, the question of what happens next remains critical. Economists say the government is facing an uphill battle, making room for its citizens in their most vulnerable moments, while also protecting the economy from total collapse. We'll keep an eye on this story and bring you updates in our subsequent programming. Share your thoughts with us on Facebook and on TikTok at DW Africa. Listen to us on Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts. And don't forget to subscribe to our DW Africa YouTube channel so you don't miss an episode. This show was co-produced and edited by Isaac Mugabe. And I am Ajua Tenkwama Domina. Bye for now.
DW. Made for Minds.